Going on? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I am here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. How you doing today, babe?
I'm all right. How you doing? You're far from me today.
Yeah. Well, I'm in Georgia, and you are in Chicago, and I'm down here for the I Am a Man March, hosted by King Randall as he's opening up a preparatory school for Black boys. So I came down to support him, and you're in Chicago, and you're about to go to the One Africa Unity Summit in Detroit, and I'll put the link up if anybody wants to come to either one of those events. And so we were talking about the Johnny Depp stuff, the and Amber Heard. I know that the Johnny Depp story has been kind of interesting to you all week. So how do you uh
Wait,
what
I'm sorry. I gotta apologize to you. I know I have been talking your ear off about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp every day. I was like, "You'll never believe what happened today." It was really something. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I had to put you through all of that, but it was just the most fascinating thing to witness. Don't you
yeah,
think?
well, it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of nuts, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an interesting thing that I said, I think we need to talk about it in a pillow talk. We normally don't talk about white people in the pillow talks. Normally, this is 100% black, but this story with Johnny Depp. I mean, how many of y'all give us a yes or no in the chat? Yes or no, Tyler and Henry and James and Creation Muse. How many of you have been following on any level or seen any of the stuff going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and this crazy stuff? They're in court right now, Nisa and Gail. They are fighting over, like, I guess, a defamation thing. And Alicia, I'm gonna let you kind of fill me in because, to be honest with you, I wasn't even keeping up with it that much. But Alicia was coming in my office every 10 minutes.
I sure was.
Hey, did you see what she did? Did you see? How many of Okay, I see some yeses from Reginald and McNeil, and Denise says I have, and Courtney says I know nothing. Okay, so we got to fill in Courtney. And somebody, Henry, says I have not followed one bit. So I think that this is more, maybe more women followed this than men. I'm not sure. But so why don't you can you give us like an overview of like what's going on? Because I know Johnny Depp is a great actor from Pirates of the Caribbean, and my favorite movie was Blow. Blow was a great
Oh,
movie. But but it sounds like he's got some relationship drama, and that's kind of what we talk about a lot. So tell us what's going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
yeah, well, they got married and in the process of divorce, while they were getting divorced during the whole Me Too era. Remember the Me Too era a couple of years ago when everybody was coming out
Is
being
the Me Too era over now? Please let it be over. Oh God, is it over? Is it officially over? It's like
well,
the pandemic. It's still kind of lingering. People still wearing their masks and everything. So is Me Too still here, or is it gone?
it seems like Me Too got replaced by COVID. Can I
Okay. Do you
what
know how funny
say
that sounds?
what?
Me Too got replaced by COVID.
It
Like,
did.
like we replaced our latest distraction with a new distraction.
Right. And then, the war in Russia replaced COVID. Now COVID is on the second page of the news and Russia is on the first page. Hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us what's going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Why does the whole world care? Why are they paying attention?
Well, first of all, she did an op-ed piece, I'm thinking, and it got published, I want to say, in a British, very famous British magazine. And it was during their divorce. She published this piece saying how she was married to someone who was famous, and he was physically abusive to her. And she wrote in detail about this alleged physical abuse that happened. So everyone figured out that it was Johnny Depp, and so he was in the midst of doing several movies, and he just got dropped. Disney dropped him from another Pirates of the Caribbean. And I will say I've yet to see a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and now I really want to watch it because everyone's been talking about it. But I remember Johnny Depp just from just growing up. I grew up with him from, remember 21 Jump Street? I remember that show. So I
Yeah.
then anyway, so he sues the newspaper and he said, "Listen, you cannot publish this information about me and not call me and ask me if it's to corroborate the story. Like, this never happened. I was never abusive to her. You cannot do this. Now I've lost all this money, all my movie deals, and my entire name is mud now because my ex-wife published this information about me that wasn't true, that I'm an abuser. And remember, this is the height of the Me Too movement. We got to believe everything she says, and they never question him. So he lost the lawsuit against the newspaper company or the magazine company. He lost that lawsuit. He was very devastated. And finally, he just said, you know what? I'm going to sue. I'm going to sue my ex-wife, Amber. What's her name? Amber Heard. I'm going to sue
Amber Heard.
$50 million
Okay.
for defamation of my character. People in Hollywood don't want to work with me anymore because they think I'm a wife beater.
Wow. Well, you know what? I tell you, I think the first lesson from this I'm picking up is like, y'all gotta stop dating crazy people. I mean, seriously. I mean, or people that just love drama. I wonder when I saw this relationship. First thing I wondered was, how much was alcohol and drugs involved, and I think they both partaked in some, shall we say, mind altering substances. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. But you know how they were in a movie together, I believe. I think they met on a movie set, and so you're just thrown together. And it's my understanding is that when people in Hollywood get together in these movie sets, they spend a lot of time together, but they don't spend a lot of time with other people. So they're just in this little silo together, and they can just fall in love and just go and get married at the drop of a hat. And so I don't think that they dated for long before they got married, and I don't even think they were married a year before they got divorced. So it's one of those boys. They didn't even know the first. So you got to know who you're marrying. You got to be able to test them out, find out how crazy they are first, test the waters before you just jump in and get married. So I think marriage is definitely something that should be taken a little more seriously. And I know Johnny Depp is learning that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, well, what it speaks to is, you guys know my area is finance. Like, that's my thing, right? And when you talk about wealth, what a lot of people don't know about wealth, and Johnny Depp is a wealthy man. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm gonna look up his net worth, and stuff like that in a second. But he's done movies where he's getting 10, $15 million per movie. He could have easily been on the path to being a billionaire. He could have even gotten, I'm sure, even gotten into making movies, like being behind the camera as opposed to just in front of it. And what people don't know about wealth is that one of the biggest areas that people make that mistake is when it comes to protecting wealth. And they not only do people not protect their wealth, but they don't even understand what it means to protect your wealth. They think that protecting your wealth means setting up LLCs and foundations and trusts and estate plans. No, protecting your wealth also means thinking carefully about who the hell you're dating, who you let into your life. This lady has cost this man at least $100 million just let's just say on all of her bullshit. Like, it sounds like, maybe he's got his own BS too. So I'm not going to sit here. We can't take too many sides in my view because we don't know this relationship. But, she wrote one article in the media. Pay attention now. I want y'all to listen to this and understand this, especially if you have sons. If you got sons, especially black sons, imagine if he was a black man. Well, he wouldn't even get his day in court if he were a black man. So let's just forget that. But she literally even said to him, she said, "Look, I'm a woman, and people are gonna believe me. They're not gonna believe you." And I don't know if anybody else knows this, but Maurice Claret, who plays for the Dallas Cowboys, he was dating a little blonde-haired snow bunny or something in college, and she did the same thing. She said, "I'm a white woman. You're a black man. Ain't nobody gonna believe you. They're gonna believe me." And so she threatened to lie on him. So this is happening. Like, this is a widespread thing. It's not like it's happening everywhere all the time with everybody. But, the fact that she could just write an article and cost this man $100 million really speaks to the idea that Johnny Depp, somebody forgot to tell him that when you get all that wealth, you become a target and you become very vulnerable. And you can't just run around, get high and drunk, and go marry the first pretty thing that walks by you. Get some therapy that'll help you overcome those low vibrational tendencies, because that was very unstrategic in my view. But I probably sound judgmental, and I don't want to sound that way. So let me just pass the ball back to you. What are your thoughts, babe?
Well, here we have some 50-year-old man that got him a little hot thing. She's in her 30s. So he got swooped up into it. So maybe he's just a lonely old man with some money, and it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna hook up with a nice little pretty hot thing for the rest of my life, and someone to take care of me. And oh, was he mistaken?
Woof. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. What was he mistaken? Yeah,
And
well, go ahead.
not Abby, she was, I mean, the level of abuse that she did on him, it was pretty frightening. And at one point in the trial, I mean, I felt that my heart goes out to anybody that's on the receiving end of that level of abuse that he went through. I mean, I guess we can talk about some of those, but she not only was verbally and emotionally abusive, but she was physically abusive to him, and he never hit her back. It was a really sad thing. And he talked about, and it really falls in line with a lot of individuals who grew up with abuse. So I'm kind of wondering about his past. But he said, when she would hit me and when she would call me names, he said, I would just retreat like I did when I was a child. And to hear him on the stand talk about that, I was like, oh my God, Johnny Depp. And you think about the characters and the roles that he played. It put me in the mind frame of Edward Scissorhands. I don't know if people saw that movie, but it was a real sad movie about a little kid that's misunderstood, or he seemed childish in that movie, someone who's misunderstood. He tried to do all these wonderful things and he was misunderstood. So it makes me feel like some of these actors, they really put real life experiences into the roles that they play. And that's why it comes across on camera as something that you just fall for. Johnny Depp was someone who really got deep in a lot of his roles. And so there's something there about the hurt child in him that was definitely exploited. And it leaves you vulnerable to being in a situation where you're with someone who's as abusive as Amber Heard was to him. It was unbelievable.
Well, first of all, let me just say, everybody, you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. My PhD is in finance. My wife's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. So we like to talk about things that are happening in the world and hopefully elevate the conversation so that we can learn from this. And when I saw the Johnny Depp thing, I saw a lot of lessons that could be learned. And I want to invite everybody as we prepare for our May 15th event that's going to be in Chicago. We're having a Black Love and Money event, adults only. It's going to be a lot of fun. And also, in addition to that, if you'd like to learn more about the event and also receive a free guide, Dr. Alicia put a free guide in how to find out what your partner really wants and how to have drama-free relationships. Feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. That's boyceandalicia.com. So there's lots of free stuff. And our goal is to help you really address the drama by addressing the trauma. And so with that said, I want to ask you, you mentioned that perhaps the reason that Johnny Depp, or assuming that Amber was quote unquote the bad guy, if you want to use that term, you're saying that perhaps there was something inside his childhood or something going on with him emotionally that might have made him vulnerable to abuse. What can you speak further on that?
Well, I mean, that's what I kind of picked up on. And the fact that he still tried to want to please her, even though she was being so awful to him. And she was going on one of her tirades, and he wanted to leave. And he said, you know what, I don't want to be with you anymore. Please let me go. Let me get out of here. Let me leave. And she wouldn't let him leave. And so he calls his friend to come and take her home so that maybe she could leave and go home. And I'm just thinking, he, even in this position where she was just being totally awful to him. And as it comes out, Amber Heard had been diagnosed with having a personality disorder, which makes kind of sense about why she can't control her emotions. But even in the whole midst of trying to protect himself, he was still really concerned about her and her well-being. I thought he gave, at some point, you do give a level of respect to, no matter what happens, if someone's abusing you or whatever, it's not an excuse for you to abuse them back. You should really remove yourself from the situation. But the fact that he was still caring about her and still wanted to, I think the word is to really protect her. in the whole midst of her kind of going crazy, I just felt like, okay, this is somebody who's been there before, because when you're not used to being abused, you're like, hold on, what's going on here? This is ill. This is over. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm out of here. Long way before they should have been. So it seems as if what happens to us when we grow up with abuse, we tend to repeat the same situations in our current relationships with our spouse and with the people who we choose. We act that out, and we repeat that in our adult relationships, things that we see as a child. And so I saw a little bit of an element of that he talked about in the trial that was really pretty pathetic. And I hope that he gets some treatment for what he's been through.
Yeah, well, you know what? I definitely feel like I'm gonna take a slightly different approach from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that you're wrong, because I don't think you're wrong. I think that there's so many things that I'm learning from this. So, and I want to give a little advice to everybody that's listening. From Uncle Boyce. I hope it's okay if I give some Uncle Boyce advice. Um, you can learn a lot, not just from your own mistakes, but you can learn a lot from the mistakes of others.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in my 20s, that's how I learned. I wanted to learn most of my lessons from watching other people, not from actually going through it myself. I'm not going to waste 5-10 years in a horrible situation to figure it out. I'd rather hear a story of somebody who spent 10 years in a horrible situation. That way we can, achieve the lesson more efficiently. And so when I look at this couple from a distance, what I really see is, as you mentioned, he's an older guy he's Johnny Depp, for God's sake. That means, you're a stud. Women love you. You're 45, 50 years old. You can date women as old as 60 and as young as 20. So you got a wide range of opportunities and possibilities. And the thing that sometimes we forget as men is that everything that glitters ain't gold. Everything that shows up with a pretty face and a sexy body is not good for you. And you can get caught in crazy situations, especially when you are, say, 45, 50 years old. If she's in her 20s or 30s, you're talking about a generational gap, a cultural difference, and I know that guys, say my age, that are 50, I noticed that, back in my day when I wasn't married yet, when I would just kind of, run into opportunities or whatever, meet people, like I became much more handsome when I became kind of famous. I don't know. It was weird. It just changed overnight. Um, and I noticed that women my age, I understood them better. They understood me better, and I knew what to expect. But when you deal with a woman that's much younger than you don't know what the hell you're gonna get. And the thing is, Amber Heard, I don't know how old she is. Do you know how old she is, babe? Is she like in her 30s or what?
Yeah, she's in her maybe 34 or 32. And I do believe that Johnny Depp is like 50. He's definitely older than 50, maybe 51 or 52. And
Okay.
and yeah, I know she was probably fun and exciting, and she was probably a breath of fresh air, and she probably made him feel young. The dynamic of that, and
Yeah.
and just got caught up into it, and slowly started to realize that he needed to get rid of her. He needed to figure out a way to get rid of her. And the fact that she lashed out against him that way, and just totally ruined her character, his character, totally ruined his character. It was such a great thing to see a man in this Me Too movement. This is the aftermath of the Me Too movement, to see a man sit down with a microphone and have his story actually heard and validated. It looks like it's gonna rule in his favor. And so it's really nice to see that, because she used that Me Too. And I'm not going to say that just because that a lot of women were doing that, but I think that people like Amber Heard makes it hard for women who are really abused to come forward, because now people aren't going to really believe you at all. So it was really nice to have some justice done. The tables were turned a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know what, babe, what I would say, and by the way, everybody, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. We would appreciate that very much. And also feel free to shout out what city you're from. I always like to see what city everybody's from. But what I like about this trial, and which makes Johnny Depp kind of like the male version of what a feminist hero would be, is she's showing something that we've always known to be true all along, but we needed to be reminded of this, is that men can be abused too. women have power. Women are not always these damsels in distress that are constantly being manipulated and harmed by men. I mean, we know that that occurs and it happens way too often. We need to stop that. But there are some women out here that are powerful, and some of them are treacherous. And when they see that, oh, wait a minute, I get to be a wolf, and you think I'm a sheep just because I have a vagina and long hair, oh, well, I'm going to play that game all the way to the bank. And I think that this is, and again, I don't know if this is what Amber Heard was doing, but I know a lot of stuff was coming out. And what really got me was when there was that quote at the end or something. You told me about it. You could tell me more about it, where she basically said exactly what I'm saying, that because society is so stupid, they're going to believe me. She didn't say it's the stupid part. I added that part in. But she said they're going to believe me because I'm a woman, and they're not going to believe you because you're a man.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Tell me what went on with that.
Oh, yeah, that's what she said. And the beauty of it is that he had it recorded. I don't know how he thought to record their conversations. I don't know how. I mean, the whole thing was recorded. It's amazing that that happened, but he had it on, and it's really interesting. During the trial, they held that piece of recording when she says, "You're a white man and I am a female, and they're not going to believe you over me. They're going to believe my word over you." And she said that verbatim, and he had that on record. And when they played that recording of her saying that, you see the look on everyone's face. It's just like, wow. So it's actually going to be, I'd be interested to see how Amber Heard's career goes. So maybe it's going to come back and fire on her negatively. So backfire on her. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, and I really hope, that's interesting about men being abused. I hope at the end of this that more men speak up. I think that it's a stigma against men that they don't want to talk. They suffer in silence a lot, and hopefully Johnny Depp can now pave the way, and so we can start believing men now.
Well, you know what? Nia says, I have zero sympathy for males that chasing young girls and women. What do you think about that?
Oh, I have lots of sympathy for them because I get it. It's hard for men. It's hard for men to embrace the fact that they're getting older. Their men are, their hair is getting gray, and they're not able to move like how they used to, and it's difficult for them to embrace old age. And so that's what they do. They get into what's called a midlife crisis. And then some men go and get a nice shiny new car, and other men get a nice shiny new little hot thing. And it's a thing that they do. Like, I don't know. I'm not the kind of person that judges people on their behavior. I'm not, that's not something that I do as a therapist. My job as a therapist is to try to understand where they're coming from. And I think the judgment part is, it's unfortunate that so much of that is happening on social media. I think that we need to have a little more compassion with people, because if someone put a magnifying glass on your life, I could be judging you all day long. But again, we use celebrities. I know you talked about this earlier. We use celebrities as examples, but we do have to understand celebrities are human beings just like us, and a lot of our stories aren't quite that different. All of us have been through a terrible relationship. A lot of us have been through abusive relationships. I think the latest number I saw was that in an abusive relationship, the person on the receiving end of abuse and relationships will attempt to leave the relationship at least 7 times before they actually have the courage to totally end the relationship. And so it's difficult for us. So a lot of people can just say, okay, he's abusive to you. Why don't you just leave you? Oh, he cheated on you. Why don't you just leave him? Or, she's not doing what you want her to do. Just dump her, and it's not that easy for some of us, because there's a lot of connection you have with them. They're not always bad. There's some good qualities everyone had, and you hope for the future that it'll get better, because you're remembering how in the past, how beautiful that your relationship was at one point, and you want to get back to that state again. So I don't tend to judge like that, because if I've walked in your shoes, then maybe I could judge, but I don't want anybody judging me and my mistakes, so I'm not going to do that for other people.
Okay. Well, everybody who just came in, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and this is my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. And in case you don't know, my background's finance. I'm a finance PhD, and I taught at Syracuse University for 13 years. My wife, her doctorate's in social work, and she's a licensed therapist. And so we thought that it would be fun to basically lay against our pillows. We're not against our pillows right now. Actually, right now I'm in Georgia and she's in Chicago, but typically we're laid against our pillows and we're just having conversations for intelligent Black people who believe in Black love, who actually want to be better and do better in their lives. And one of the things that we want to encourage you to consider is, get rid of the drama in your life. Like, deal with the trauma by, which will allow you to eliminate the drama. But the only way you can do that is if you deal with the trauma, because a lot of us go through stuff as kids and it causes us to have complete chaos in our lives, bad choices, bad outcomes economically, bad outcomes in terms of family, bad outcomes in terms of mental health. And so we're committed to what we call a drama-free lifestyle. And so if you want to learn more about what Alicia does, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. This is where she sees clients and all kinds of stuff. And you can follow her on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. Or if you'd like some free tips on how to begin your path to a drama-free lifestyle, feel free to visit boyceandalicia.com. So let me hop in and say this. And I want to just mention a couple cities. I see LA and Seattle for Najima. Tiara's in Seattle. Love Seattle. Gail's out of Arkansas. My brother's in Arkansas right now. Violet's in New York City. We're going to go to New York. We got to go to New York, babe. This year we got to get I think Brooklyn's going to be on the schedule. Philly for Rashonda. We will be in Philly at some point. Chicago. Keisha will be in Chicago on May 15th. So if you guys want to learn more about the Chicago event, just sign up at boyceandalicia.com. We'll send you an email and let you know more about it. But it's going to be May 15th. Los Angeles, Detroit. Now, Detroit, you're going to be in Detroit this weekend for the One Africa Unity Summit. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll give you guys the information for that. So let's get back to the topic. So we were talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard and just generally, and you're right. I actually understood when the sister said earlier, I have no sympathy for these guys that chase younger women. And I hear what you're saying, right? I don't, I don't think we should necessarily be judged. I mean, I had a relationship once with a woman that was about 15 years younger than me. And it was a different experience, and this is before I married Alicia. And of course, if I'd been dating, if Alicia had been around, in that capacity at that time, then, it probably never would have happened. But, you experiment, things happen, whatever. And it was a different experience. It was, there's a big learning curve. And I tend to believe that you just got to know what you're signing up for. I think that's what it is, right? I think a lot of times we start relationships and we, to put it harshly, like I think Willie D would say things like, don't turn a hoe into a housewife, and I think that goes for male hoes or female hoes. And I think that sometimes with these relationships where you're the old guy trying to get your groove back and you go hang out with some lady that's like young enough to be your daughter, you just got to make sure you understand what that looks like. That, she's not, okay, she's with you because you're Johnny Depp and you're rich and you're famous and successful, but she may love you differently than a woman who's your own age. Like Muhammad Ali, for example. I think about his life where he had a lot of wives and there were a lot of young women that were chasing him through the years. And a lot of them just took his money. And when he got Parkinson's, they were nowhere to be found. And it was Lonnie, who actually happened to be much younger than him, Lonnie, his final wife, who scooped him up when he had Parkinson's and said, okay, I can work with this. This is something I admire this man. I've been admiring him since I was little. I can help him get to, a place where he can die with some dignity. And she really saved that man, in my view. And so in a way, it almost seems like in a relationship, I almost wonder if he knew what he was getting into, if he knew what he was signing up for. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, we need to stop this. I mean, at some point, age, it really is only a number. And just because you're dating someone with a large age or a big age difference doesn't mean it's not going to work or doesn't mean that there's something dysfunctional about it. I think I think it very well can work. And I think women who are cougars and they get a young man or whatever, that's what they call women like that. There's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, those relationships can be extremely satisfying, very healthy, and very productive. You know, I think it's just as valid as any other relationship. We shouldn't judge that either. The vast differences in ages, it can be definitely healthy. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I tended to. I'll tell you what. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I mean, when I was 38, 39, I remember noticing. I said, "Okay, wow, I'm meeting women who are in their 20s, and no one's going to beat me up for that." I'm also meeting women who are in their 40s. And all of them. And there were just interesting things. That were happening. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but because I have a wife, and my wife is literally the queen of all queens. But I remember kind of feeling like my final conclusion was I said, you know what? I kind of enjoy, because I'm a cognitive person, I enjoy the idea of talking to a woman who's my same age. Like I want to talk to a grown up, you know, like the weird thing that happens, like you date a younger girl, like she starts talking about stuff like growing up watching SpongeBob, and you're like, yeah, my kids used to watch that, and it just feels weird, and it's
Oh, well,
awkward.
she
And
doesn't even. I'm sure she would. She'd be like, "Who's Johnny Depp?" She like wouldn't even know who that.
right. So I enjoy when you and I talk, and we can talk about stuff from the 90s and stuff from the 80s. And we were about the same age when all that went down. Like I appreciate that, and I think and I would almost say that you are taking a risk, if what male or female. I've seen women, like when that lady who got her groove back was dating that 21-year-old, and she was all liberated because she's 40 and he's 20 or whatever. I knew that didn't make sense. I said, no, I don't think that's gonna last. And I
Wait,
don't even know how they're gonna even make
did he
that work when he's 40 and she's 60. I don't even see that playing out. Whereas somebody your same age, you could see yourselves growing old together in the sunset. It's a little bit tougher when you got a massive age gap. I don't know. I feel like you are taking a risk, and you got to understand that.
were you talking about Terry McMillan? I had to jump in. So you're talking about Terry McMillan and how I think he ended up being gay, right? Was that the whole?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
just like spreading rumors? Yeah, I think that was the whole piece. He ended up being gay, so that didn't work out. But that's not to say that all relationships like that don't work out.
Oh no, no, absolutely not, absolutely not. And I think that it's more like, I think that there are some things that are natural and some things that just aren't. I remember when I was 19, I got hit on by a 38-year-old woman, and I felt like I was being molested by my grandma. Like I was like, what the hell? Like, what am I gonna do with your old wrinkly like in my mind, in my 19-year-old mind, 38 was like, you might as well have been 112. Because I'm like, wait, my mama ain't even 38 yet. That's crazy and gross to me, you know. And I think that's just the reality of it. Like people want to act like it's the same for men and women. I don't think it's the same. I've seen young women who can date an older man, a 25-year-old who says, "Yeah, Johnny Depp is 50, or he's sexy, blah blah blah." I didn't see a lot of young men at 25, hunting 50-year-old women. I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you can't meet a woman that's 5 or 6 years older than you who could rock your whole world, right? Which brings it a whole another set of problems, right? But seriously, I didn't. I'd be curious if there are any guys in the building. If you were 25 and there was a 50-year-old millionaire lady that wanted to hit on you, would you be eager to date a 50-year-old? I didn't know a lot of guys who thought that way, and I think it's because men and women desire different things in relationships. I think, like when I read those books and articles, like what do women want and what do women value, and I see a difference between men and women. I don't think we are the same. What do you
Man,
think?
let me tell you, you just reminded me when we had speed dating, I broke the room. We had two rooms. We had two rooms and then an overflow in the little hallway. And so we had, if you were 40 and under, you were in one room. If you were over 40, we put you in a different room. And there were young boys in the under 40. They was trying to come into the overflow. And I said, what are you doing in here? You don't belong in here. He was like, man, I want me an older man. I want an older woman. Some of these men want an older woman, somebody take care of them.
A sugar bomber, right?
Mama to take care of them. I'm not saying that's what that gentleman was doing, but he said, I like older women. I want to see what's going on in this room. I said, okay.
Well, you know what? Let's be clear. You know, like women keep their swag in ways that the society doesn't always acknowledge. And I will say that I gained an appreciation for women over 40 when I was over 40. But when I was 20, I didn't, or 25, I didn't see it. But I do agree. I think that, this idea that somehow women have an expiration date like a piece of chicken in your refrigerator, that's crazy, and I could totally get it in terms of younger guys learning to respect and appreciate that. And I think generally speaking, there are people who I think enjoy dating just people who are stable and mature, and I'll imagine an older woman or older man, typically, if everything is going the way it's supposed to go, they can bring that stability and maturity to a relationship, which to me creates a more functional situation. But then, because think about it, look at Johnny Depp. I don't really know, if a 45-year-old Amber Heard would have behaved the same way a 30-year-old Amber Heard would have behaved in that relationship.
Well, I think now this is interesting because during the trial, a psychologist did over 8 hours of psychological testing on Amber Heard, and she decided, or her diagnosis for Amber was that she had borderline personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder. And I don't think, with that sort of diagnoses, it's a personality disorder. So it's a state. It's not like a trait that you have. No, it's a trait that you have, not a state. So some people can be really emotional, and it could just be in certain situations. But when you have a personality disorder, it's pretty stable inside of you that this is how you normally react to things. And so I don't think it matters if you have a personality disorder. It doesn't matter if you're 20, if you're 40, or you're 50. She's going to have a problem with relationships no matter what, unless she gets some real intense treatment. So it'll be really difficult for her.
Did anybody hear that stuff about her
Mhm.
crapping in his bed? What was the stuff about her taking a dump in his bed? That right there is just nasty as hell. I mean, I don't even want to hear the rest of the story. There's no story you could tell me that starts with "This is why I took a crap in his bed" that I'm gonna want to listen to. I'm serious. I've never even thought about it. Has anybody else in here understand what I'm saying? Like, is there anything that you could go through in a relationship that would make you want to poop in somebody's bed? Can anybody, yes or no? Yes or no? Well, what do you think, babe? I mean, what was going on with this whole crap? What was her logic? I'm sure seemingly logical, rational explanation for it, like dropping a turd in his bed.
Yeah, and she blamed it on the dog. She said the dog
Okay.
did. And he's like, these are little miniature Yorkies. They would never do. This is a grown sized turd. This came from, you were the only person there. And that's what happens when you have a personality disorder. You get triggered, and you just go off and you do things you never would have done if you were just when you're in your normal state. But something happens, you get triggered, you get angry, you don't know how to deal with that anger, and you're like, well, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna get him back by taking a dump on his bed. Now there.
So do you think that, I mean, so did she admit to actually taking the dump in the bed? Like, or was that something where it was like she blamed the Yorkies or something, and it's still up for like speculation as to who actually took the actual dump in the
No,
bed?
it was confirmed, I believe. I'm not certain how, but it was confirmed that it was actually her that did it. I think there may have been another person in the house, and she threw something at him, a bottle at him, and it cut his finger off. It severed one of his fingers at the tip.
Hmm.
Blood was just gushing out. So he's lost a finger.
Okay, so let's circle this back around to anybody listening.
Yeah.
Like, I want to bring Uncle Boyce back in the room. I hope that's okay with everybody. If you ever get into a relationship that ever gets physical on any level, I'm gonna give my perspective on how to respond. Alicia has, full rights to give her point of view. My response to that, especially for men, is you walk away. Like, just immediately shut it down, disengage, walk out of the room, and get out of the situation. If you get in, don't you put your hands on anybody else, but if they put their hands on you, throw something at you, get to breaking windows or doing anything physical, walk away. Because you can try to explain it. You can say, oh, well, they did this and they did that, and that's why I did this. I pooped in the bed because she said this to me. It's gonna make you look crazy, and it's all make you all look stupid. And if you have, and again, there are intelligent Black people in the room. All of y'all have goals. All of you want to accomplish something. And if you get around somebody who is living on that level of debaucherous immaturity, you're not going to accomplish anything, and they're going to ruin anything that you have going on. They're going to embarrass you in front of your colleagues. Like, you know what I think about, babe? And I got to bring this up. And then I want to hear your response on that. Remember that movie War of the Roses?
It's great. It's a great movie. But looking back, I saw it recently and I was like, good grief, they are awful to each other. Like, they should have left a long time. They were really terrible. I love that movie.
That movie was absolutely crazy. And if you remember in War of the Roses, that's, and I remember kind of figuring this out in my little 19-year-old mind when the movie came out. That movie is an example of what I'm talking about in terms of how a bad relationship can make you insane. I think everybody in here, anybody, give me a yes in the chat. If anybody who's ever been in love and knows what I'm talking about, like, relationship drama can ruin your life. It can make you stress. It can stress you out. It can take you out of character. It can have you acting like a damn fool, And so in this movie, to me, that was a great example of just what can happen. Like, these were normal people. They were successful. They were wealthy. They had a good family or whatever. And next thing you know, they're punching each other. He peed in the punch bowl at her dinner party. Somebody ran over the dog. Next thing you know, they're hanging from the chandeliers, and she's cracking his back, and then he writes this letter saying, I owe you everything. And then he's on his deathbed, and she uses the letter in court to get all his stuff. Like, it was really just crazy. And Danny DeVito's character, who was positioned as the guide, like, you and I study storytelling, and in every story, there's always a guide. Danny DeVito, from the very beginning, sat him down and said, look, man, you don't want to do it this way. Let me just tell you a story. Or he was telling another guy the story, and that's how I feel. I want to be like Danny DeVito's character. I want to be the guy who says, look, before you go down that rabbit hole of revenge and chaos and toxicity, just know you do have the choice of walking away and keeping your spirit clear. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so it would be so nice if that's how abusive relationships really operated. Like, so no one is going to say, hello, my name is Alicia. Come have dinner with me. And then you have dinner with me, and then I get up and slap you in the face. There won't be walk away. So how abusive relationships work is that they start off really charming and really kind and really sweet and really sincere. They don't start off being controlling and abusive. So these relationships, it's very difficult because it's almost like, it reminds me of the scenario where if you slowly boil the pot and someone and the frog is in there, the frog will just die because it doesn't realize that the pot.
If you start boiling the water slowly, the frog will kind of just start chilling and get comfortable. And he doesn't, and it's because he's slowly but surely raising the heat, and he doesn't jump out, and he'll just like boil to death and die. Yeah, because he's adjusting. Yep, I know that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what abusive relationships are like. It's really, the water is feeling really good at the beginning, almost too good. Wow. And shiny armor is here. He has swept me off my feet. That's the first sign that relationship ain't going nowhere.
So if you meet a good man, you better run.
I'm
being silly.
It's not necessarily a good man, but it's too good to be true. It's just like, look, let's just we can still be good to each other within some reason. Like, you're instantly in love with me. You don't even know me. How you gonna be instantly in love with me? Like, that don't make sense, right? But in a situation where you're vulnerable and you feel like you need somebody to like really love you in that moment, abusive people can attach themselves to people who are lonely. That's why I said, oh, I bet Johnny Depp was probably 50 something years old in his big old mansion, all this money, and feeling really lonely. And
I can
that's
see that.
that's the precursor of being vulnerable to that type of water. The water is going to feel extra good to you, and slowly, there's these controlling behaviors, because that's the whole point of being a knight in shining armor, is to gain control over you, because they want you to think, oh my God, I got a good catch, I'll never find anybody as good as him. I'll never
Mm,
anybody as good as her in this case. And so that's how you psychologically hook somebody. And then slowly you can start controlling them. You can start heating
mm,
up that water in the pot by isolating them from their friends and their family, the typical. Um, and then eventually, years later, then maybe there'll be one incident of a physical abuse, but it won't be very common. Maybe once a year it'll happen.
well, well,
Extreme control.
well, what that makes me think about is when you were telling me how the Buddhists believe you should want nothing, and that's how you can like kind of liberate yourself. And I say that because if you want something, and like if you really want love, or you really want sex, or you really want whatever companionship, then you can become vulnerable to somebody who can identify what you want and use that as a pathway to gain control over you. Just like a drug dealer, says, here, try this drug, and you love it, and then you gain a craving for the drug, and then they can slowly turn the heat up. They can ask for higher and higher trade-offs to receive access to the drug that you become addicted to. And love is a drug. There is such a thing as becoming digmatized. We see it happen all the time.
Well,
And
clearly, you're not seeing things clearly. You have no perspective. And actually, that's the best response when someone's coming on a little too strong. They're laying it on a little thick. That's a signal to say, you know what, this is going well. I like how our relationship is going, but I'd like for us to slow this down a little bit, because slowing it down will help you get some perspective.
mhm.
Don't just get swooped up into the whole romance where it's kind of over the top. You can say, I think we're moving a little too fast for me. I'd like for us to kind of slow this down and take it day by day and see where it goes. And you're well within your right to say something like that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. And a man who's really interested in you would say, sure, I'll go as slow as you feel comfortable. But a controlling man may either just push on and find somebody else, because they'd be like, no, she's not buying into my control tactic. uh, she ain't the one. She's not, that's not going to work for me. So yeah, that's how you can spot them.
All right. Well, everybody, you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins, and we are two professors who like to have intelligent conversations about things that are happening in the world. We also believe in getting rid of your drama by dealing with your trauma. And so, if you want to understand those steps to find a drama-free lifestyle for yourself, where you can have drama-free finances and drama-free relationships, we have some free resources. So feel free to sign up at boyceandalicia.com. And I want to remind everybody, we will be in Chicago, Alicia and I, May 15th. So if you go to boyceandalicia.com and sign up, you can actually get passes to join us for the event. It's going to be adults only, intelligent conversations about Black love, Black money, Black people, things like that. So if you'd like to join us in Chicago, just sign up at boyceandalicia.com, and we can send you out an email with the information. So, digging back into the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp thing, I was just kind of processing everything that you said, and one of the things that I found online, because me, I'm a big Googler. I love to Google things. Google's a great place to. Google's like a university. Y'all don't even know, man. And I found this list, and I don't know. It's from whengeorgiasmiled.org. I don't know what that is, but they give warning signs that you're in an abusive relationship. And I thought this was interesting. It's consistent with what you said. One, quick involvement.
Testing me?
Wait, say it again.
Are you testing me? It's two. The font.
No, I'm not testing you. No, I just wanted to get other perspectives and add it in.
Oh,
to
okay.
what you were saying. No, I wasn't testing it all. It's more so just saying let's get a list so that
So
see
let me
because the
get
thing,
abusive with you.
yeah, well the thing is because remember you don't know when 10,000 people listen to a podcast, you don't know what those people are going through, right? And I'm always thinking about the audience. I'm always thinking about those of y'all that are in the audience listening. And I want you to apply this information to your life. I mean, sure, we might talk about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, but that's like a template. It's like a case study, like a Harvard case study, because ultimately you're thinking about your life. You're thinking about your experiences. You're thinking about your choices. And so, in my view, the thing is that when we speak, the power that those words have, it's not, I don't forget about that, because I've had people reach out to me and tell me that they were suicidal until they heard something that I said in the podcast, or they tell me that about something going on in a relationship where they made a different choice because of something we said. So I want to share information. I want to make sure you guys are able to walk away with something beneficial other than just a good conversation. So here are the 9 signs of being in an abusive relationship. They said 1, quick involvement in a relationship. 2, extreme jealousy. Jealousy is not cute. Jealousy can be very dangerous. 3, controlling behavior. You're not a child. Nobody has a right to control you. 4, threats of violence. Violence has no place in a relationship. 5, abrupt mood changes. That could be either mental illness or it could be drug use. That's why in our household, I don't drink, I don't use drugs, because I want to be my best self around my wife and my children. I don't want to be whatever monster I might become if I was wired up on cocaine or something like that. So I don't mess with that stuff. 6, verbal abuse. You can say things you have to say without being verbally abusive, and you shouldn't tolerate verbal abuse. 7, breaking objects. That's very childish and immature. Why do I got to throw a vase against the wall to make my point? That when somebody gets to that point, you walk away and let them know, look, I'm not going to have a conversation with you while you're acting like that. 8, use of force during an argument. Again, no place in a relationship. 9, a history of past battering. I think that's a big one, babe. And I'd like to get your thoughts on that, because I've talked to abusive people before. And typically what I noticed is that my theory, and again, I'm not an expert on it like you. I'm not a licensed anything in this area. I'm just Uncle Boyce in this particular example. But I remember having conversations with a man I knew who was in an abusive relationship. And it was interesting how he rationalized every single thing he did, almost like he had to do it. Like I had to choke her because she was saying this to me and it made me feel this way or whatever. And then what I noticed, though, is that even when I see women who are abusive, they're not typically physically abusive, which is why sometimes we miss it. But when I see women who are verbally abusive, or women who violate a man in other ways, like ruining his reputation or taking all his money or taking his children or destroying his life, there's kind of a get out of jail free card that sometimes abusers give themselves to say, well, I'm not an abusive person, but I only behaved this way because I was retaliating for something that this person did to me. What are your thoughts about that in terms of like what goes through the mind of an abuser to make them feel justified in their behavior?
Yeah, well, they can't admit that they were wrong because then they give up their control. So, and I think, put that list back up, so sometimes I want to put that list back up.
I'm going to pull it up. You keep talking. I'll get for you.
Because here's the thing. Sometimes and I'm going to talk about this actually a little bit in Detroit, about how sometimes we can be less than respectful to each other in relationships. So sometimes if you're mad at your husband or something, you might call him a name. You are so and so. I don't even know you are stupid. You are crazy. You may call them a name out of anger, not out of laughter, but out of anger. And that's technically verbally abusive, And so, that's one reason why I talk with a lot of my couples about, okay, you're calling each other names, you're saying things that is, that's not nice during an argument. You have to stop and apologize. I think the apologizing piece is the key that you need to look for, that you don't see in an abusive relationship. Now, I will say that a lot of abusive individuals, and I'm going to say men, but women can do this too, is that after there's a big flare up, so maybe there's things get verbally abusive, and there's threats of, not even threats of violence, but there's actual violence that happen between two people, you'll have what's called the honeymoon stage, where they do whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, I know I'll never do it again. Not that kind of apology, but they buy you flowers and want to go back to the beginning when they were sweeping you off your feet again, because they want to try to get you back in their graces. So you do have that cycle of abuse that can occur among abusive people. But in general, when it comes to just regular conversations that you're having with someone, and then they say something that's less than ideal, a lot of people won't apologize. They won't say, I'm sorry. They say, well, you know what? I called you a name because you were acting stupid. I really do feel that you're acting stupid. That can be abusive too. If you get.
Well, yeah, I kind of think that what I really like about the recent conversations that I've seen online, even the conversations that maybe aren't necessarily always beneficial and healthy, is it's allowing us to kind of hear from everybody's perspective and everybody's challenges and discomfort and pain. And I think that when we start really acknowledging things like you've talked about, things like parental alienation that a lot of men go through, where, like, how many of y'all in here, give me a yes or no, how many of y'all in here know a man who had his kids taken away, or and is trying to see his kids, but every conversation is made to make him look like a deadbeat? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you know somebody who's going through that. And I've seen that happen a lot. And I heard these men for many years, and nobody else would listen. Everybody would just sort of allow one party in the process to kind of have a blank check to write any story that they want to write, to make themselves into the hero of the story, and the other person's the villain. Well, I don't let my child see his father because he's blah, 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 blah. So you're presenting yourself as the hero, as if you're protecting your child from something terrible, when really you could be harming your child in a horrible way. I had a father. I liked my father. I was glad he was there. If my mother had been like, well, I'm protecting Boyce by keeping him away from his dad, I'd be like, no, protect yourself. You are the one who's not happy with him. That's my daddy. I need my daddy. So I need you to kind of stop that, and I think that we have to kind of challenge some of those narratives and allow everybody to be heard. And I think, generally speaking, there are basic rules that I think can be applied. And I like to believe I can offer some input on this, because I have to be in the line of work that I'm in now. I have to be real careful about how I choose, what relationships I choose to have. I'm not talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about business relationships, even friendships, even conversations. I won't even have a conversation with somebody if I don't really trust them, because they can run back and say, well, Dr. Boyce said this to me and said that to me, and it may not even be true, but it doesn't matter. Now I got to spend all my energy proving that they lied, right? And it's very hard to do that as a Black man. So I would almost say to tell everybody, like, look, a big thing you want to really do is, if you value your life, if you value your future, if you value your wealth, if you value your mental health, really be careful about bringing people into your space. Think of it like coronavirus. During the pandemic, we got really good at socially distancing until we were sure you were safe, right? And, wear your mask. Did you get your jab or not get your jab, or whatever it is that you believe in, right? And we were really cautious because we knew that bringing the wrong person around could have huge negative consequences. I don't think we think that carefully when it comes to things like sex. I just really think, as a society, I don't really know if we understand just really what sex is, like how important and how powerful it is. I mean, that's the key to the universe. Think about it. All of y'all that are in this chat, Manuel and Nefertari and Reginald and Roy, Ray, none of y'all would even be here if two people had not gotten together and had sex. So you're opening up the keys.
Oh, boys, please don't give me no mental picture of my parents having sex.
I know, it's crazy, right? Like, yeah.
No, my mom was it was what is a divine intervention with my mom? No,
she got
not my mother.
She's like the Virgin Mary. My mama's still a virgin too.
That's right.
And how many of y'all got mamas that are still virgins? But seriously though, and I think I don't talk about it much because I sound like a weird nerd and not everybody gets it. But these are the things I think about is like a lot of times when we're not finding what we want out of life, we're not getting the success we want, we're not getting where we want, or things are going bad and we don't know. A lot of times it's because you haven't taken time to really look at the fine print of the universe. These little choices. Malcolm Gladwell is brilliant at this. Tipping points. These little tiny tipping points that pop up in your life every day, like the decision to say hello to that woman or not say hello, or the decision to give him your number or not give him your number, like how that literally creates a whole universe of realities. Like we're constantly living through the butterfly effect. Remember that movie, The Butterfly Effect, babe?
It was my favorite movies.
Yeah, just like how little choices you make shape entirely new, take you down a whole different path of reality. I thought about that in my 20s because I had a long relationship with a lady for 4.5 years, and I thought back to the origins of that relation. I literally took my brain back to the moment before I even knew who she was, and I realized that the difference was that I was getting in the car and she stopped me right before I got in the car and asked me a question, and I couldn't answer the question right then, so I said, here's my phone number, call me and I'll tell you what I know, right?
Ooh,
And I think about that, right? And I'm like, wow, if I had gotten in that car 5 seconds earlier, the next 4.5 years probably never would have happened. How crazy is that?
Boys, it happened the way it was supposed to be. You were supposed to, for whatever reason, share 4 years of your life with her. Did you? You got to learn a lesson. There's something in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I,
I'm not gonna say that fate isn't a real thing, but I think that there's an infinite number of fates for you. Like I think in this room, if you want your fate to be that you're supposed to be a billionaire like Elon Musk, I think that can be your fate. I think you get a choice in choosing your fate. I don't think that your fate's gonna happen no matter what. Like there's, like if you're determined to not get fat, somebody can't say, well, no, it's just your fate. You're just going to get fat. It's just going to happen no matter what. Not if I do everything in my power to avoid that from happening. 99 times out of 100, I'm not going to get fat.
so you want to rule your destiny? Is that what you're saying?
I think that we have the ability to manifest. Tiara used the word manifestation. I think that
Look at you
we,
say, boys.
yeah,
You used to
what?
never say manifest. Look at you saying
Oh, I use the word manifest all the time. That's why, I mean, as a black man, I'm a God. Like we all have God inside of us. Yes, and I talk to black men all the time about how you got to be careful about how you talk about racism and oppression. If you start talking about your oppressor as if he's the almighty Lord and Savior Jesus Christ over you, then what you're doing is you're kind of zapping yourself of your own God-given ability as a black man to manifest, and no one's going to respect you at that point. So yeah, I'm all about manifesting.
Yeah, so I think that bringing it back to look at that picture. Why would you put that picture up? You're so funny.
Oh, I'm gonna take it down. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm
I
just
should. I
that's
didn't get clearance. That was
now
when we were in Detroit last time, so I thought you might get a kick out of that picture. There we go. There's the last trip we made to Detroit. Look at that. Oh, look at all those people.
Detroit.
Yeah,
That,
this was the last time we were. Wait. I'm trying to think. Yeah, you were there.
of course, I was there.
Yeah, and yeah. So it's Ken Harris invited us. So you're going back to Detroit this week. And by the
Yeah,
way, everybody, if you want to
be in that.
learn more, well, go ahead, babe. What you say?
I said I'll be in that same room.
The same room, really?
I think that's where I'll be. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't
Well,
know. We'll find out. But I'm gonna be in there. I'm gonna be in that room at least at one point.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, everybody, if you want to join the One Africa Unity Summit, they have virtual tickets and physical tickets if you live in the Detroit area, or if you want to just watch virtually, just go to boycewatkins.com and look for events. And we have a long list of events, so you can get passes to the Detroit event. I'm doing the I Am a Man March in Albany, Georgia this weekend. If you want to be a part of that and come down and participate in that, you can. Also, the May 15th event that Alicia and I are doing in Chicago, the tickets are there. The Essence event, which is going to be in July, early July, that's there. Also, the All Black National Convention, of course. So we got a lot of stuff happening. So if you want to meet us in person and do a live pillow talk and participate, you can be a participant. Maybe you have a background, you want to be on a panel or something. We love to hear from other smart Black people. So, feel free, just go to boycewatkins.com, look for the events link, and you can find all the events. So let's go back to this Johnny Depp conversation, babe.
Yeah,
All right.
well, yeah, I was gonna say that even on some level, Johnny Depp, who just went through something horrific, that was his fate. There was a lesson in it for him that he needed to learn. He's dating this lady who has this wild personality disorder, who's extremely controlling and very abusive. There was a lesson in it for him. And guess what? If he doesn't learn his lesson, he'll keep dating Amber Heards. It'll be another Amber Heard and another face. The same, dating the same women over and over again until you learn your lesson.
Okay, so when
Not
you
to say that you deserve to.
well, let me ask you this. I'm gonna challenge you. So I got, well, not challenge you. I gotta ask this. When you say it's his fate, are you saying that there's nothing he could have done to avoid this, or do you think, or are you saying that this is just going to be a part of his story? I mean, I think this is a part of his story because it is a part of his story, but I think that there is something to be said about, an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure.
I'm certain on the day he married her, he didn't think that it was going to end this way. I'm certain that there were red flags. I'm certain there were signs along the way that pointed into the direction of what she was capable of doing and what he was capable of allowing her to do. And hopefully he has a therapist or someone he can talk to that can help him process what happened and where down the line he noticed that the pot was boiling and he was the frog getting cooked in the pot. At one point he's like, it's too hot, I got to get out. So I mean, that's my hope for people who've been in abusive relationships like that. It's not enough for you to just leave and get out. You need to leave and get out and find a place that or somebody or a space where you can process what the hell just happened and how did I get myself caught up into this and not realize it. Because the controlling behavior, the jealousy, all of those things that you listed, it's going to be very subtle at the beginning and you miss the signs. What happens is that it slowly erodes your self-esteem and your self-worth. And you start to believe that you don't deserve any better. And so you get stuck into these situations, and just leaving the relationship is definitely not enough. That's where the healing starts. Once you're strong enough to leave the situation. And I know you talked about if you find yourself in an abusive situation, you need to just leave. And I know it's easy to say that, but I think if you're in a truly abusive situation where it's extremely volatile, it's not that easy to just leave. You really need to plan this out. And I have worked with, do you know I used to work at the hospital? Remember that Boyce when I was a therapist? Not wasn't a therapist. I was.
You talking about Cook County?
Yeah, when I worked at Cook County Hospital, and I worked in the trauma and ER, and there would be women coming in there on the weekend when I was on my weekend shift, and they had just gotten abused, by their spouse, and we definitely had people who were trained that could help work with them to get out of that situation. But, we needed to plan and strategize. What are we going to do? Because sometimes you have children, with this person. And so it's not that easy to just jump up and leave. You're financially dependent on him and dependent on your partner. So it's not enough to actually leave. You need to plan to leave. So sometimes when you're in a very abusive situation, you need to work with a professional to help you figure out the safest, peaceful way to get out of those situations.
Okay, so let me say this too. I don't, when I said get out of abusive situations, I wasn't talking about like necessarily get out of the relationship per se. And I should have clarified that. What I was really saying, and honestly, I was speaking as a man, but I think I would say the same thing to my daughters. I was saying that if you're in a relationship that suddenly turns violent,
oh yeah,
shut down and get out of the room. Just go. And I mean, you're still going to be in love. You're still going to do stupid stuff. You're still going to be connected. But like if you came in there and you just decided you want to pull out a knife and stab me, or you want to punch me in the face, which I know you would never do, I'm not going to punch you in the face back. I'm not going to sit there and keep arguing with you. In my mind, that conversation has now gone beyond my red line. I'm not trying to go to jail today. You know what I mean? I'm not, and and the reality is, I'm a black man. They gonna lock me up. Ain't nobody gonna really be trying to hear like, oh, well, she did this and she did that. They just don't believe you. And so as a man, you just know, smart men anyway, I think, should just know, like, no, it's not about right and wrong at that point. It's like, get the fuck out of the situation so that you don't end up being destroyed by this. And so I don't do any violence. Like, and so if I, and I'm glad you're my wife. I mean, my gosh, I just love you so much. I'm so happy you're in my life. And I can tell you that if you have been the kind of woman who might just flip out and go nuts and throw a glass at my head or whatever, I'm not going to, we're not, that the relationship's over. I'm not, as beautiful as you are, I know I'm not going to marry you. I'm not going to marry no crazy woman, because crazy women have destroyed empires. Crazy men have ruined lives. I had a friend who was a professor who lived in Florida. You went to Florida State, and I think she was in Florida, and her husband killed her. Her husband killed her and then killed himself, and they had 2 young children who were home at the time. And this asshole kills her and then kills himself, and then the 2 little kids just grown up without parents now, And she saw warning signs. Everybody saw signs that this guy was just not quite all there. He was insecure. He was weak. He was jealous. He was, whatever. And she's high flying. She's a professor winning awards. She was just like you, like on top of her game, full professor, speaking at conferences around the world, getting accolades and everything else. But what happens is that if you have a lot to lose, you really shouldn't be tangling up with somebody who has nothing to lose. My father told me that when I was a kid. He said, if you get to where you get something to lose, don't be out here running around with people that have nothing to lose, because then they're going to take everything that you have.
It's amazing how people compartmentalize their personal life and their professional life. It's just amazing to me that you can be this very successful in your career. You're like the director, you're running things in your business, and you're doing all these great things. But the moment you come home, you're a survivor of domestic violence. It's really striking. I mean, when you think about abusive relationships, it has nothing to do with income. Like, it happens. It happens to people who are millionaires. It happens to superstars like Johnny Depp. It happens to poor folks. It happens to middle class. I mean, it is so, it's vast. It doesn't show itself in any certain socioeconomic status. Any one of us, and any one of us, can be victims of abuse.
Yeah, well, you know what it makes me think about? This is why I'm a big believer in therapy, is because, just because you have it all together on the outside doesn't mean you have it all together emotionally on the inside.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
It's a
know, it,
struggling every single day just to stay sane. Sanity. It's
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. Like if you think, and I see Nefertiti says that was me and I was a social worker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing. People will be, this is why I think we got to get out of this habit of trying to pretend like we're perfect and we have it all together. I just think, get rid of that. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to the world, and admit that you're a work in progress. Admit that there are some areas that you have to fix that were never addressed in your public school education. They were never addressed in your fancy bachelor's degree. You didn't learn that crap in your MBA program. You didn't learn it on the corporate plantation. So if you never learned it, if you never sat down with somebody who could help you do the internal work necessary for you to be a whole and complete human being, then it's going to be hard for you to do much of anything else effectively and just sort of maintain and protect that, right? So, like, if I grow up as a kid and I've just gone through some really horrible trauma as a child, which pretty much is the majority of Black people, and I could go out and I can become like an NBA superstar or a high flying corporate executive, but if I've never sort of done the work to deal with those internal issues I have, then it's going to show itself in like really crazy, ugly ways. You know, like for example, I think Michael Jordan's a great example. Anybody who looks at Michael Jordan, I'm not even a therapist, and I can look at Michael Jordan and the way he conducted himself toward others and see, okay, this man really needs to sit down with somebody and work through his stuff. You know, now he's got the yellow eyes from all the liquor he's been drinking, and he's sitting there, he does interviews with a glass of bourbon because he's just working through stuff constantly and self-medicating. And I'm not making fun of the guy. He's extraordinary. He's remarkable. He's accomplished so much. But I almost wonder, like, was there some extra work that needs to be done? Do we put enough energy into the work that is required for us to be not just successful, but to be like happy and content and successful at the same time? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think you're so right because it just reminded me of the recent interview with Shaquille O'Neal. Did you hear that interview where he talked
No,
that, looking back on my marriage and my children and the life I had, with his wife, he said, I really messed it up. I was not the best husband. I wasn't the best father that I should have been. And I look back on that and I'm like, it was my fault. I should have known better. Like, you can tell. You should look that up. I thought I sent it to you, but maybe
I think I saw it where he was kind of apologizing or something like that.
yeah, because Shawnee, I think, is her name. And he's like, I shouldn't have treated her like that. I was not a good husband. Like, and it was almost like he kind of regretted, ruining that whole situation. He's taking ownership. Not to say that Shawnee was, totally innocent. I'm certain it takes two people. But he looks back on that and he's like, gosh, I should have done better by her. And I should have been there for my children. So I mean, that shows some growth in him, to be able to publicly say that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the guys do it, and a lot of times for the guys like that, it comes down to the temptation of all the women and everything. And I know Shaq was, he had a lot of the ladies around or whatever. And I think even just marrying an NBA player is just going to come with a lot of chaos, especially especially when your husband is 20 years old, 25 years old, and he's got $100 million in his pocket. It's kind of a recipe for disaster. And I think with Shaq, I kind of feel like I grew up with Shaq. Like I was the same age as him pretty much. And I saw his evolution through time. And I think he's evolved into like a remarkable father and businessman. I'm super proud of him. And and I almost feel like it's nice for him to sort of present it that way,
Mhm.
to give her that closure and respect that she deserves as the mother of his children. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think at the same time, it's like, look, that was the '90s. The '90s are over. Like just move on. Like, let's not try to explain it. It was what it was. I know Will Smith. I remember hearing Will Smith say some reflective things about his first marriage. And I remember learning from it where he said that in his first marriage, he was super ambitious about his career, but he wasn't ambitious about his family. Like he wasn't as eager to like spend time with his wife and kids as he was to go get a movie deal or whatever. And he learned that, anything that you value, you have to be equally ambitious for all the things that matter to you. So like what I try to do is remember I need to be just as eager to go to the park with Taylor, our baby, as I am to, do a business deal or have an important phone call, because all those things are important. And it's because if you don't do it, what happens is that the things that don't matter as much, they kind of just fall off the radar. And so that's and I'll tell you, raising Taylor has been just so much fun. And I thank you publicly for sharing the children with me. I know that we live in a world where there's like, a bunch of bullshit on the manosphere where men talk about being a bonus dad like it's a terrible thing. I'll tell you, like raising those kids has just been such a blessing for me. And Tater is the one I get to spend the most time with. I call her Tater. And it's just, I mean,
Those kids, man, you know how I feel about. Oh my God, these children. I hear what you're saying. It's all sweet and dandy and stuff, but sometimes they can be a little much.
it's a lot of work, but I appreciate it, because now I'm 50. Going back and having kids is not something that would be easy for me to do, even if I wasn't married to you. And so part of the reason I was sort of challenging those narratives about, being a bonus dad, that some people were sharing falsely, is just to kind of say, no, like black children are a blessing. Like black children, that's an opportunity for you to influence somebody's life, to be a mentor, to And I just love it. Like if I was really to talk openly, like don't get me wrong, I've accomplished stuff professionally. I've made some money. I've been all over the world. I've given probably 1,000 speeches and 1,000 interviews and just done it all. But this is like at this point, this is my great thrill. My great thrill is like when I sit there and I talk to Taylor and we're talking about the 3 P's of success. I say, what are the 3 P's of success? She says, practice, preparation, and persistence. And we have talks about self-esteem and reminding her that she's enough. And just like I love that. Like that is like I think that it was at this stage where I learned, like, I think I was really born to be a dad because I just love being a dad, you know, and so I'm not gonna sit here and just yap about it all day, but I just say this really in hopes that anybody else out here that's really getting the joy of that experience, don't be ashamed of that. Like that should be a joy. And then also don't let other people talk you out of what you think is a noble purpose in your life. You know, I just, you know, there's no more important job I've ever done than raising those kids. So enough of that.
I mean, it's funny because when you talk like that, I'm just like, okay, that's really sweet, but you know, sometimes it's hard work, and I'm just like, oh, thinking about, you know, some of the challenges. Good Lord, are we not challenged? And we ain't even talked about the adult children we got to deal with. They just
Yeah, it's a lot of instructive stuff. You know, it's a lot of like,
struggling with
you
their stuff.
know, constantly correcting and asking questions like, you know, why do you keep leaving the peanut butter on the counter? And what is this crap you put in the refrigerator? You know, and dealing with kids' idiosyncrasies, you know. But I just see it as fun. You know, it's all fun in my mind, you know, and learn how to be a dance dad and being around the little dance, you know, the little dance girl culture, the whole like racket they have around these dance competitions.
You went a trip. Oh, did I tell you she won a trip to New York?
Of course you did. How much is it going to cost us?
To dance with the Rockets. The Rockettes. That's what it is. She actually won a trip to New York. Not a trip. We got paid for the trip. She ain't going.
Of course we do. Yeah. They always want our money.
She gets to dance with the Rockettes. And she didn't even know who they are. She said, who are the Rockettes? I said, just Google them. Then she comes back. She's like, oh my God, I can't wait to go to New York. I was like, okay.
That's hilarious. Okay, so we've gotten totally sidetracked. Let's
I think it's fine to digress into other stuff.
I think so too. Yeah, we started off talking about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff. So if you came in late, you're probably confused as hell. And but we covered all that like in the first 45 minutes to an hour, and then we started talking about more important stuff like
we got all into the serious stuff. You know, I like sometimes digressing into not so serious stuff, but
well, you know, there was somebody in the audience who asked if you could do a podcast on borderline personality disorders. Would you be interested in doing that?
Oh my God. You know, it would be, you know, I used to teach that class. I actually used to teach the DSM.
Did you?
Statistical manual. I used to teach it. I think I've taught it maybe 4 or 5 times in the curriculum in our master's program. So I used to teach that class. I would love to teach personality disorders. That would be really kind of cool.
Okay.
If anyone would be interested in hearing about how it's developed, and you know, in thinking about personality disorders, it makes me feel kind of sorry for Amber too. You know, I have some compassion for her because I can't imagine what it's like living her life, because not only is she having a very difficult time with this ex-husband of hers, according to her perspective, I'm certain, she probably has a very difficult time in all of her relationships. Can't imagine how depressing that must be.
Yeah, I've noticed a common theme, like when I've run into people that I suspect have, you know, borderline personality disorders, they tend to be fighting with everybody. They tend to be going through it with like constantly. Yeah, it ain't just you.
Right. It ain't just you. There's a whole line of people behind them that is just like, ooh, so happy to get rid of that person. That's how they feel.
Oh, you know, that's true.
So she's not a happy person, and she's probably in a whole lot of stress, probably extreme anxiety. And I hope she gets better and heals. I wish her the best.
Well, what about Johnny Depp though? I mean, but I don't think you should let him off the hook entirely. I mean, I saw one video where he was doing a lot of yelling and a lot of cussing, a lot of screaming, and I didn't hear her doing a lot of cussing back.
He did. Well, the thing is, he wasn't abusive to her. He was carrying on, and he was probably drunk and high. But that doesn't mean he's abusive.
Mm.
Was
Well,
wasn't abusive to her in that scene.
well, I'm gonna tell you, I don't even understand, honestly, as a person who doesn't drink and doesn't use drugs or smoke or any of that. I don't see how people can have alcohol and drugs. Relationships are hard enough. I can't imagine trying to manage a relationship while you're high and drunk all the time.
Well, it depends on what type of drunk you are, Boyce. Are you an angry drunk, or are you a lovely drunk? Because I had an uncle that was a drunk, and he would he would get drunk and call everybody and tell everybody how much he loved them. He would call me and be like, "I love you," and he'd just hang up. He'd confess his love to you. He'd call everybody. Then finally, we're like, Uncle Dan is drunk, calling, telling everybody he loves them. They're like, okay, being in our family, like Uncle so and drunk. Here we go. He did he call you yet? Well, he'll be calling you soon. So it depends on what type of drunk. Those angry drunks, not so much.
Wow. Well, you know what? I still don't get it, right? I still think anything that alters your mind or
Huh.
opens the door for other, bad addictions and just I just grew up with most of the men and women in my family that I knew, mostly men who did a lot of drinking. They weren't very good at managing their life.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
like I could think of several, about 4 or 5 men in my family that I saw who drank a lot, and I noticed other parts of their lives were not together. Like they didn't have good relations with their kids. They forget marriage and all that didn't last at all, and lack of achievement, in their personal life or professional life. And of course there's the physical health issues, right? A lot of them died young, and that was kind of my cue to kind of say, I think I want to leave that stuff. And then drugs just seem to make you crazy,
Yeah,
crack and heroin and all that. I was like, ugh.
okay.
And it might get you locked up, and then you get locked up. Think about it. It must suck to get locked up as a drug addict, because then they lock you up and you can't get your drugs no more.
Oh, people get drugs in jail and prison, I
Yeah,
guess.
but those are like prison drugs.
It's not
Like
the same
the
quality on
prison,
the street.
because prison is where they like make wine in the toilet and shit like that. Like, who wants to drink toilet wine? Like that's just. I mean,
Okay.
that means you're really looking to get a high if you're gonna drink some toilet wine. I'm
So
sorry.
I think it's like in your family, the addicts, they weren't very functional. I think like in my family, I'm not saying that I had a lot of drug addicts in my family. I don't think I had a lot of drug addicts, but there are some people in my family who don't drink. A lot of people in my family don't drink at all, but there's some people in my family who do. But they're very functional. So there's a lot of they go to work, they got a college degree, they got a nice house, they living their life up, but there's some functional drinkers. I don't even know if I want to call them addicts or not, but there's some very functional people in my family. So I don't quite have that association. And I'm just saying that because I every once in a while, like as soon as my academic semester is over, you better believe I'm gonna be popping open a bottle of wine, and I'm gonna have a big fat glass of wine
That's
when it's
hilarious.
over. This has been a rough semester, so that's how it is. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm using it as a celebratory gesture.
There you go. Well, I
You'll
heard
be
that.
okay with that, right?
Yeah, I am. You know what? I support you, babe. And if you get drunk, I'll carry you
You
home.
carry me home. Okay,
I
that's
will carry you home because I love you. Well, everybody, I wanted to show you all before we head on out of here. You listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. If you happen to live near Chicago and you want to join Pillow Talk Live, we're having a Black Love and Money event in Chicago on May 15th. And you can actually join us, and it's adults only. So just grown-ups, no kids. And we're going to have just a gathering of intelligent Black people who want to mingle. If you want to meet the people, members of the opposite sex, if you want to have intelligent discussions about love and money, I'm full of financial information. Alicia's full of information about healthy relationships of all kinds. Lots of networking for those that want to do business. Feel free to join us. Get on the list. Get on the list. We will send you a free guide on drama-free relationships, drama-free families, drama-free finances. So feel free to go to boyceandalicia.com. And you can also get a discount on the passes to the Chicago event just make sure you get on the email list, and we'll send you a link where you can get a discount. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you, babe. It was great having this conversation. I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, it's fun. I wish you were here with me though. I kind of miss you already.
I miss you too.
Crazy. This don't make no sense, boys.
I know we're such weirdos.
It's supposed to be
Like,
apart and it's supposed to be okay.
like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We're gonna go crazy and beat each other. Oh, sorry. These are images of our other events that we had
Oh,
the All Black National Convention. Everybody should come to the convention. By the way, if we haven't told you, we're gonna have speed dating again this year, and because that really went over really
oh
well.
yes, we will. Oh yes, we will.
Yeah, yeah, and we're going to some other cities. So these are some images from other events that we've done in the past, and some of them I did, some of them Alicia was at there. And so if you'd like to join us for any of our events, make sure you go to boyceandalicia.com, and we'll send you some free stuff, and also we'll also update you on what we got going on. So thank you all very much. If you could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe on your way out the door. We love you, and we will talk to you all soon. So take care and have a good night, babe.
All right, you too. Bye everyone.